there are different ways that we can tune the violin. So when we spoke about the setup, we remembered that we've got the tuning pegs and then also fine tuners at the bottom of the violin. Your violin will usually come, a new full-size violin, without the fine tuners, only one on the E string. But for beginners it's really very useful to have these, because it's difficult to finely tune with the pegs. For the tuning, to tune every string, we can use an app on the smartphone. So nowadays there are, in both the Google store and the iPhone store, there are many free apps that you can download on your phone to help your tuning. So I've got a iPhone, so I'm using what the name of the app is called, iPhone Lite. So on the app you'll see there is on the left side there's a little tuning fork. Now that will, if I pluck my A now, you'll see it's moving. Now it's the middle, just under the big A, you'll see it says 440 Hertz. Now that's the standard tuning of string instruments. So if you look at that, it shows past the 0. So the needle needs to be in the middle. So now in order to bring that down, I will then fine tune and go down a little bit more, and there's slabbing on 0. So that is, with a fine tuner you can really go very finely to adjust just that little bit extra or more. And as you can see, while I'm talking, the frequencies are changing. So when using an app or a fine tuner like this, you really need to be very quiet and only focus on that one sound that you want to produce. Then on the other side, if you take that little megaphone, it gives the sound, so you can hear the A. So many people like to tune that way, but in the beginning you might not hear the similarities between your A and that. So using that little fork, a tuning fork, is going to be more useful for a beginner, because it will show you where to put the tuning. So it's in the middle. If it's below, it's too flat. If it's too over it, it's too high. Good. Now another option is these clip-on tuners. Now there are many different models, and cheaper ones, more expensive ones. For this, if you just want to tune your violin for the strings, you know, most of these will be really effective. But if you want to go further later on to practice individual notes while you're playing a song, if you want to make sure and really train your ear for intonation, then a more expensive one, the one I have here, is called Super Tight by Snark. So you'll see there are many Snark models on Amazon, but this one is the one that their frequencies are very, very tight, so it will really show you very clearly when you use it for your intonation. This one you can put on your violin, and then, so if you put it like this, you can see the face of it. And then you can also put it on your stand in front of you and bring your violin close as possible, and then it will also pick it up. It works with vibration, this one, so it's best if you really clip it onto your instrument, because it will also use the vibration plus the sound to get you the most accurate setting, so that you know if you're in tune. So let's have a view from how you'll see it when you're playing. And for the beginning, we're just going to use pizzicato. To put the bow to the strings, you really need a very smooth sound. So for instance, if you now look at the up again. Now if I move that, now if I don't have a steady bow, you see it really doesn't know what to do, because it hears so many different sudden frequencies or changes. So to have a very smooth bow, you will get the best if you use your bow. But with the pizzicato, it already has a very clear tone coming to the app. So that is why in the beginning, to tune your violin, it's really best to just use the pizzicato. Good, let's have another view to see what it will look like if you do it on your violin. Okay, so now we've got it attached there. So we usually start with our A. So you pluck your A string. Now we can see that one goes over, goes into the green. So now I want to turn to the left, so anti-clockwise on my, and I'll just go left a little bit, just a little bit more. No, it's still too over. Now it's bang onto that. If I test my D, that one is nice and good. So let me just get it a bit lower. So for instance, say it was like this. Now I see, oh, it's far down, so I'm just going to put that up. There we go. You can also practice your left hand pizzicato, that will do like this. So if you want to say it was quite down, while you turn, too much. There we go. Now we start tuning on the A, the next one to the D, and then to the G, and then the E we leave until last. So that one is also good. While I was tuning with the tuner now, my violin was quite close to the pitches, the correct pitches. But it can happen that your violin goes out of tune quite easily, and sometimes the pegs might slip, and that is often influenced by the weather. If it's very dry weather, they shrink because they're made from wood and they can slip easily. And you might find that when you're in a climate that's quite humid, they're very, very tight, so it's very difficult to move them. So I'll have a different video on how to do peg tuning, because for the time now we're just going to use this. Now if you had to adjust your pegs, if you can do that by yourself and you know how to tune with the pegs, get it as close as possible to the pitch that you want, and then use the fine tuner to go fine. You also see if your pegs have slipped, or if you put new strings on, it actually takes much more tuning. So you can't just get the A up and then decide, okay, now the A is nice, it's right on the tuning device, it shows exactly in the middle, and then you do the D and you get to the G, and after you've done the E, you might just find where, and you will find if your strings were all down, when you start back to the A again, it's out of tune again. So for a new tuning from new strings, or if your strings have slipped, always double check all of them, even every day. So you'll often see when professionals tune, they don't just tune A, D, G, E and then finish, they test them again. And with professionals, they often use 2 strings at a time to listen carefully to the harmonies of the fifths. We have to tune in fifths. Now that becomes later when your ear is trained. That's much further down the line. You really want to start listening to those frequencies to hear when is it exactly a fifth. But that's for much later, so don't get worried if you see other people tuning with 2 strings at a time and not using the app for every string. But you usually will find professionals using a device to give them the correct A. We always start on A, and then tuning the violin with 2 strings at a time from there, or they take the A in the orchestra from another instrument, from the oboe. The oboe will usually play. Or if you're playing with a pianist, it's no good tuning every string to the app. You have to take the A from the piano. And that is then where we have to train our ear to be able to listen to a note and then tune accordingly. But for starting out in these lessons, we're going to follow with me, and we will just every time tune to A. And sometimes you're going to play tune to A440, or some of the recordings I'm going to use might be a slightly higher pitch, and then I'll tell you, for this exercise, tune your violin to 442. So you can see in the app and on the device, and with any of these clip-on devices, there will be instructions how to reset the frequency of your tuner, so that it is not that, because if you try to tune your violin and it's actually set on the default, which is 440, but you want a slightly higher A, or you want a lower frequency, sometimes with music they say no, you need a lower frequency, then you can just calibrate your tuner and you will get the correct A. So hopefully this makes it more clear on how to tune your violin. And please remember, before every session, make sure your violin is in tune. It's very good for training your ear and making sure that you don't put a lot of conflicting intonation into your ear and your ear just gets confused. So do yourself a favor, always play with a violin that's in tune.